اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Brothers and sisters, I know they are anxious to talk to each other and you haven't seen each other for a week, but let's start the meeting with salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. I don't know what's going on that side, but the entire time I read 4 ayat from Quran, they still continue to talk. And I'm sorry to mention that because Quran Majid deserves a lot more respect than that. I'm sorry to be front about it, but when Quran is read, we have to be quiet and listen to it, because even the Surah Al-Jum'ah that I just read, it tells you that I send the Quran to guide you. We are still in 21st century, haven't understood after 1400 years. Anyways, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Another Friday has passed us, and we are still lacking our Imam Zamanana. The basirat and the guidance to know the Imam Zamanana, to understand Karbala, to understand Arbaeen, we have to understand Imam Zamanana. And have this basirat that we have a hujjat, and its hujjat is qaib, and we should be sad and actually find out how we can get closer to Imam Zamanana. The entire path of Arbaeen and Imam Hussein and Azadari for Imam Hussein is to give comfort to Imam Zamanana, because none of us is closer to Imam Hussein, and Zurriyat Hussein is Imam Zamanana. The Sahib Majlis, the Azadar Asli, the main Azadar is Imam Zamanana. The angels, they come to this meeting to do azadari for Imam Hussein. So it's Majlis is a lot more important than anybody like me. So, as I said, the Friday belongs to Imam Zaman, and we have to understand that what do we have to do to get closer to understanding the Imam Zaman. So inshallah, when the Faraj happens, we are not busy somewhere else doing other things in the world and don't help the Imam Zaman. So Arbaeen is for understanding and getting ready for the Zuhur, inshallah. There is millions and millions and millions of people right now that are going through this Zahra Nainava to get closer to Imam Hussein, and they make a niyat, and some of them make it, and some of them even lose their life going that many miles and that much distance to get closer to Dome of Imam Hussein and be able to touch the Zarih of Imam Hussein. Unfortunately, this year, I, for instance, regret the fact that I wasn't in that trip and I didn't make it to Ziyarat Arbaeen. And I sincerely hope that all of us, for those of us who haven't made this trip, at least get a chance for only one time to be able to make this trip and be able to understand why so many people are so ashaqana and so in love with Imam Hussein, go through that much trouble. And from the clips I've seen, I am in awe from the people of Iraq and all the sacrifices they make, and they give their everything, from the child that is only a few months old to their oldest people. They give everything in the Masir of Arbaeen for Agha Imam Hussein, and he deserves it. And inshallah, Agha Imam Zaman would give Aj to anybody and everybody who is the true Azadar for Imam Hussein, and inshallah will pay him back for their efforts. But nothing that we give for Imam Hussein and Ahlul Bayt is enough until we get the forgiveness from Agha Imam Zaman, inshallah. With that, inshallah, we start the meeting tonight and wish all the brothers and sisters from our centers, over 10 people who are making that ziyarat, to have the tawfiq to get the most out of that trip and bring us their du'as. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد و آل Muhammad. For the love of the Holy Prophet and his holy family, please recite the second salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the reappearance of our awaited Savior, please recite the third salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. The Marsiya that I have tonight is a continuation of this journey, where on the night of the Roze Ashura, the Sham-e Ghariba, the place was desolate. And the poet describes the scene in similar fashion, where the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam has come back from captivity, and they have brought the heads of the Shuhada with them, and the heads were reburied in Karbala. So the poet tries to describe these scenes, and the scenes where the sister talks to her brother, and in the end she says her goodbyes. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. चहलुम जो करबला में 72 का हो चुका, पैबंद बेकसों के तनो सर का हो चुका, और फातिह हुसैन के लश्कर का हो चुका, खबरों पर शोर आले पैगंबर का हो चुका। मातम में 3 रोज रहे शोर व शैन से, روئے لپٹ لپٹ کے مزار حسین سے، روئے لپٹ لپٹ کے مزار حسین سے، مقتل کے آس پاس یہ بیووں کی تھی فغاں، زینب جبی لحد پر دھرے کرتی تھی بیاں، اے میرے کربلائی برادر حسین جان، شمشیر 3 دن سے تمہاری ہے مہمان، اللہ میری بات بھی پوچھی نا آپ نے، زندہ کی واردات بھی پوچھی نا، راضی ہو جو رضائے امام جلیل ہے، پر قابل ملاحظہ بازو کا نیل ہے، نے کوئی داد رس ہے نا کوئی کفیل ہے، بھائی بغیر آپ کے زینب ذلیل ہے، پشت و پناہ اٹھ گیا بے قانما ہوئی، دیکھو یہ پشت قابل نو کے سنا، میں جانتی تھی شہر بسا ہوگا بھائی کا، ہوگا ہجوم خبر پہ ساری خدائی کا، چہلم کروں گی دھوم سے میں کر بلائی کا، پرسا بھی نہیں کوئی زہرا کی جائی کا، منہ ڈھانپنے کو آپ ہی پلہ بھی لیتی ہوں، اور اپنے دل کو آپ ہی پرسا بھی دیتی، چہلم تو کر چکی میں دل افگار یا حسین، اب روزہ کس طرح سے ہو تیار یا حسین، اب روزہ کس طرح سے ہو تیار یا حسین، بیٹا بھی اور بہن بھی ہے نادار یا حسین، آخر کبھی تو آئیں گے زوار یا حسین، آخر کبھی تو آئیں گے زوار یا حسین، تکیہ ہے کار سازیے پروردگار پر، اس دم تو صاحبان بھی نہیں ہے مزار، ہونے لگا سوار رسالہ بشیر کا، ڈنکا بجا حرم کے وداع اخیر کا، خیمہ اٹھا لحد سے شہ مشرقین کا، اور سب تبرکات جناب امیر کا، تربت کے گرد اونٹ برابر کھڑے ہوئے، رخصت کو جمع خبر پا چھوٹے بڑے، زینب پکاری کوچ کا سامان ہو گیا، پھر شہر میرے بھائی کا ویران ہو گیا، اور مقبرہ حسین کا سنسان ہو گیا، کا مقام قتل کا میدان ہو گیا، آئی مسافروں کو میرے وہ زمین پسند، دنیا میں جس زمین کو بستی نہیں پسند، اے کربلا سرورے دلگیر الوداع، اے قتل گاہ حضرت شبیر الوداع، اے قتل گاہ حضرت شبیر الوداع، اے خبر ابن صاحب تطہیر الوداع، اے بھائی جان جاتی ہے ہمشیر الوداع، کیا بے نصیب ہے یہ نواسی رسول کی، تم نے مجاورینا ہماری قبول، بھیا اٹھو کجاوے میں مجھ کو تم ہی بٹا، بھیا میں بے نقاب ہورا گیروں کو ہٹا، روکے خنات اکبارو عباس کو بلاؤ، خالی ہے گود بھابھی کی اصغر کو لیتے آؤ، سردار سارے قافلے کے آگے ہوتے ہیں، تیار کارواں ہوا اور آپ سوتے، کب سے تمہیں پکار رہی ہوں میں قصدتاً، ہے جواب بھی نہیں دیتے شہ زمان، ہے جواب بھی نہیں دیتے شہ زمان، بھیا گلے لگا لو تو جاؤں سوئے وطن، آئی ندا سدھارو خدا حافظ ہے بہن، آئی ندا سدھارو خدا حافظ ہے بہن، صغرا کو میری سمت سے بھی پیار کیجیو، ہوگا ثواب خاطر بیمار کیجیو، ہوگا ثواب خاطر بیمار کیجیو، صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
أحسنت. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب، والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah to send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We praise Allah for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated, and loyal on the path of our Master after the Prophet, the Commander of the Faithful, the Prince of the Believers, the Protector of the Prophet and his message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected elders, my dear respected brothers, my dear respected sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, أحيوا أمرنا رحم الله من أحيا أمرنا. Bring life to our cause. May Allah have mercy on those who bring life to our cause. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when he's telling his companions, his followers, the believers, then and now, affirming to us, what does it mean to have a relationship with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam? What does it mean to know the Imam of your time and be connected to him, that pathway, that gateway to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The significance being in having that relationship being what? That if one wants to be affirmed on the path of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih, this holy prophet that was sent as a mercy to mankind, this holy prophet that said, the one who dies and does not know the Imam of his time dies the death of Jahiliyyah, the age of ignorance. This holy prophet, the one who said that there is no ta'arrub ba'd al-hijrah, that there's no going back to being uncivilized after the migration, which was a symbol of enlightenment. This holy prophet that said, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn, imaman qama aw qa'da, that this Hassan and this Hussein, the ones that he would hold in his lap as he spoke to his companions and his followers, they are imams, leaders for you all, whether they rise or sit or settle. This holy prophet that said, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn, ahabba Allah man ahabba Husayna. This Hussein is from me and I am from him. Allah loves those who love him. When we're looking at this relationship with the Imams, from the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala faraj al-Sharif, in understanding that my relationship with Al-Hussein, with his brother, with his mother, with his father, with his grandfather, has to be connected to my relationship to the Imam of my time. Otherwise, I would not be following Al-Hussein. I would not be following those that we are mourning. So tonight, brothers and sisters, as we're going to be discussing over these 2 nights, the Shi'i identity and the Mahdi paradigm. You and I, brothers and sisters, living in the age of the occultation, the era of the occultation, we are living in the history in the making. We are a part of it. This is the era of Imam al-Mahdi. This is his time. So you and I, understanding our history and what does it truly mean to be a Shi'i, to be a follower of Ahlul Bayt. MashaAllah, though we are an intimate, small, beautiful community, we are very diverse. This community here in Kansas City, you have people from all different backgrounds, but together here as a family, as Mu'alun, as Shia, as Muslims, as people committed to Aliyun Waliullah, people committed to that mindset and that perspective in our creed that protects La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Us coming together, brothers and sisters, in this commitment of Al-Arba'een, in following this directive of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, ahyu amrana, rahimallah man ahya amrana, revive, bring life to our cause. May Allah have mercy on those who bring life to our cause. The reward, the blessing, the continuation of our livelihood in this life and our sustenance in the next life comes to the blessings, the barakat of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. You and I, brothers and sisters, we're taking part in that together in an active way. As much as this may be part of our heritage, as much as this might be part of our cultural rituals from wherever we come from, and alhamdulillah, the diversity in this room is so beautiful to witness. And I'm honored, truly, as a servant of the servants of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, I'm honored to be amongst you. So thank you for welcoming me within your family, this family of commemorating Al-Hussein alayhi salam, this family of going and walking on the path of Lady Zainab alayhi salam, this family of saluting and putting our hand on our head in readiness for Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif. But let us know, in this night, and every night, we are not committed to Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam because it was something merely that my father has done, and my mother has done, and my grandparents have done. It is not merely a heritage that I celebrate. It is not because I was born into Tashayyu', I was born into Islam, but it is because it is my choice. Many of us have had the blessing. Allah did not test us to be in families, perhaps, that weren't a part of Islam. Some of us maybe, some of us maybe not. But when we're looking at our relationship to our Islam, our relationship to our Tashayyu', our relationship to our Imam, let us make it that it is truly one of a commitment. It is a relationship that I wish to grow. It is a relationship that I wish to deepen. And you and I, brothers and sisters, know that every relationship, whether it be between a husband and a wife, be between a parent and a child, a sibling and a sibling, a friend and a friend, relationships do not grow, do not deepen, do not become better unless we spend time. So let this be some time that we are spending in our relationship with the Imam, in our relationship with Allah ultimately, because the Imam is our wasila, our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For what did Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam do on the day of Ashura, on the day that he was killed and massacred, and throughout his entire life? What did he do other than point to Allah and tell the people what it means to live a life dedicated to Allah? The 19th century poet would describe Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in his stance in Karbala and describe the voice of Imam al-Hussein and what he would say. He would say, إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم إلا بقتلي فيا سيوف خذيني. If the religion of Muhammad is not to remain except by my death, then O swords, take me. Al-Hussein alayhi salam, what did he give? Everything. What did he do it for? Islam. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah was what the Imam alayhi salam lived and died for, so that all of the Muslims that came and all of the Muslims that are and all of the Muslims that will come testifying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, the one who protected that, guarded that, saved that was none other than Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the ones who made sure that the memory of Al-Hussein would always be was Lady Zainab. When Lady Zainab alayha salam stood before Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, the governor in Kufa, and when Lady Zainab alayhi salam stood before Yazid, may Allah remove His mercy from these individuals, and she told them, لن تمحوا ذكرنا. You will not erase our memory. The memory of what? The memory of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. You and I, brothers and sisters, every year when we come, you are an echo to the voice of Lady Zainab. And our brothers and sisters that have made their way and joining in Ziyarat al-Arbaeen, they are there in person, walking in the footsteps of Lady Zainab alayha salam and committing themselves to that echo that will remain in the valleys of eternity. لن تمحوا ذكرنا. You will not erase our memory. This was the ultimate position, stance of truth over falsehood, of justice over injustice, of light over darkness. And that was Islam. That was Islam. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, Al-Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, all of those who were martyred and those who survived the massacre of Karbala were the embodiment of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And all of those who stood on the other side were what? Perversions, deviations from that. You and I, brothers and sisters, today, where do we want to be? On the day of Ashura, there was a battlefield. It was called the Plains of Karbala. You and I, we have our battlefield. It's not geographic. There's no battle here in Kansas City. There's a battle here within. Each and every single one of us faces our battles on every single day. Every single day. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when some of his warriors were coming back from a campaign, from a battle that they were facing, he welcomed them with his beautiful prophetic smile. And he said, "Welcome, welcome, my warriors who have returned from the lesser struggle, the smaller struggle, al-jihad al-asghar." Imagine these warriors that are coming to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and they're walking, they're holding their armor, their sword, their shields. Just the weight of the metal on their bodies, how tired and thirsty they are. And the Prophet is welcoming them with his beautiful smile, but he's telling them, welcome from the lesser struggle, the lesser jihad. One of the companions comes up to Rasulullah, says, "Ya Rasulullah, this is the lesser struggle. We've just come back from the battlefield. What is the greater struggle?" The Prophet smiled his beautiful smile and he said, "Jihad al-nafs." The struggle within, the struggle of the self. You and I, brothers and sisters, we have a choice. Many of us may not even realize the battle that we are facing. Many of us may think that nothing is going on, but realize every single day, it could be a frustration, a matter of anger. It could be something of being tested with somebody else in your family. It could be tested with your own patience. It could be tested with an illness. It could be tested with your livelihood. It could be tested with your own thoughts and your feelings. Whatever it may be, you and I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the challenge and the opportunity to become victorious every single day and be better. But you just have to face it within. Now, how do I understand that battlefield, that movement of betterment, so I can be the warrior of my battlefield, the captain of my own ship, that I can lead my own life the way I should lead? I have to have a Mahdi paradigm. I have to have an acknowledgement and realization of my identity at its core. When Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam turned to his companions and he told them, "Be proud of your name." He said, "Ya Imam, what's our name?" "Annakum Shia." Ash-Shia, the Shia, the followers. Imam As-Sadiq is telling his companions, his followers, your name is Ash-Shia. They said, "But people ridicule us for this name." The Imam explains that every prophet from Abraham and Nuh, Musa and Harun, and the prophets ﷺ and Ali ibn Abi Talib, they all had Shia. Be proud of your name. When we're looking at what it means to be a Shi'i, to be a Ja'fari, to be a follower of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, you look to the same conversations that the Imam had with his companions and how he advised them to be amongst the people in their society, in their community. For us to realize what is our position. The Shi'i is not removed from his society. We are not isolated from our society. Whether it's general Muslim society or non-Muslim society, the Shi'i is not isolated. The Shi'i engages in his community, engages in her society. And it is so that Imam would describe what would bring happiness to my heart is that if people were to refer to you, they would see the best of manners, the greatest trust, that this individual is the most trustworthy, the most honest, the most honorable, and that they would say, هذا جعفري, and that would make me proud. كونوا زينا لنا ولا تكونوا شينا علينا. Be an adornment to us. Don't be a shame on us. The Imam would describe in the same conversations he was having with his companions like Abu Basir, telling them, when Imam Ali alayhi salam, when we looked back at his Shia, they were known to be those who, when people even gave them, he gave this example, when people even gave them a yarn, a thread, and a needle, they would return the thread with the needle. Whatever remained of the thread and the needle, they would return it. Something so insignificant. But with the Shia, with the follower of Ahlul Bayt, it meant what? That they were engaged with their society in a way that people trusted them, could rely on them, could be with them. Following who? Following the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who was, he himself was the manifestation of what? Honesty and truth. Before the Prophet came with his message, what was he known as? As-Sadiq al-Amin, the honest, the trustworthy. Why do I come and bring up this as part of the Shia identity and the Mahdi paradigm? You and I, brothers and sisters, no matter how much we praise Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, if we are not individuals, and I begin as a reminder to myself because I know I'm probably lagging the most amongst us here. But in implementing this reminder, dhakir, nafa'at al-dhikra, remind, for remembrance or reminding will benefit inshallah. When we're coming forward to this relationship with Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, we have to realize the practicality of the identity in society. So what we learn from our scholars, as they refer back to Ahlul Bayt and these narrations from Imam al-Sadiq and from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib and how they engage with people around them, we see a paradigm that is built on 4 spheres of identity. 4 spheres. The first sphere, the core sphere of identity, the center, is that identity in tashayyu', that identity in being a follower of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Immediately after that sphere is the identity in Islam, in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, an identity that we share with our Sunni brothers and sisters and everybody else that says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. We belong to that Islam. Immediately after that, the third sphere is what? The identity in monotheism. Something we share with our Christian and Jewish neighbors and colleagues. And finally, the identity in humanity. When you look at Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, in his instruction, which you all know, in his instruction to Malik al-Ashtar, his appointed governor in the Egypt province, towards the end of the Imam's Khilafah, Imam Ali alayhi salam would rule between 656 to 661 AD for a period of about 4 years and 10 months. In that time, he would appoint Malik al-Ashtar to be his governor in Egypt. Malik al-Ashtar would never lead Egypt. Why? He was assassinated on his way to Egypt. What was so significant about this appointment were the instructions, the executive order that Imam Ali alayhi salam, as the head of state, gave to Malik al-Ashtar. And at a time when Egypt was a non-Muslim society. So you and I, brothers and sisters, especially for those around the world, whether we're here in Kansas City, or in New York City, or we're in London, or we're in Australia, wherever we may be in the world, When you realize in history the many beautiful examples of how Ahlul Bayt, how the Holy Prophet and the Imams instructed their followers to engage in society, you'll see such a beautiful manifestation of all of our values and our principles as instructed by Ahlul Bayt, regardless of being Muslim society or non-Muslim society. Take a look at this example. When the Imam is instructing Malik al-Ashtar to govern over Egypt, a non-Muslim society, he tells him, do not be a voracious beast over your citizens, your subjects. You are to treat people as one of two kinds, either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. This was an instruction given to Malik to rule over a group of people, majority of which were non-Muslim. Acknowledging and building into this framework that our scholars of today understand the spheres of identity that a Shi'i has in the world today is that commonality with his fellow man, with creed and without creed, with faith and without faith. So much so that you will see the implementation of that by Amir al-Mu'mineen in that same time period when he would see an elderly man begging in the marketplace. As the Imam, history tells us, he would walk in the marketplace undetected like any ordinary man. The humility and the humbleness of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he did not want people to look at him and say, that's the Khalifa or that's the Imam. He would walk humbly amongst the people, just like anyone else, even though the whole dominion of an empire was under him. But Imam Ali alayhi salam would walk in the marketplace and you would see an elderly man begging. The elderly man was going from one person to the next, asking for help. No one would help him. No one would come to his aid. Everyone would just walk past him, ignore him. And the Imam was watching the scene. As he watched the elderly man continue to beg and people continue to ignore him, he said, "Ma hadha? What is this?" One of the individuals walking by looks at the Imam, he sees him, he said, "He's just a Christian." Basically, why are you bothered? He's just a Christian. At that point in time, the narration says that the Imam's color in his face changed. He was visibly angry. And we all know the anger of the Imam is the anger of Allah. The Imam said, "Wayhakum, woe unto you. How dare you use this man up in his youth and then neglect him in his old age? Go to the treasury at once and make sure that every single one of his needs is taken care of." This is the Imam who the treasury of the Muslims, the treasury, Amwal Muslimin, the treasury. The Imam, when Talha and Zubayr would visit him at the beginning of his Khilafah, and he would turn off one candle and turn on the next. And Talha and Zubayr would wonder at the end of the meeting, they would ask the Imam, "Why did you turn off one candle and then turn on another one during the meeting?" Before they left, they would ask him. He said, "I realized the matter that you were speaking to me about was a personal matter and not a matter of the state. So I turned off the candle that was bought by Amwal al-Muslimin, the treasury of the Muslims, and I turned on a candle that I bought with my own personal money." This Imam is telling the people around him, go to the treasury and take care of this Christian man. This is the Imam that when walking by a church that was destroyed, left in the rubble, one of the people in his company would say, "I wonder how much shirk took place in this church." The Imam would turn to him and say, "I wonder how much worship took place in this church." The Imams alayhim salam, as a continuation and guardianship of whom? Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih, were the mercy to mankind. Yes, they were the truth. Yes, they were the brilliant sun in the open sky. Yes, they were the stars. But they didn't need to impose themselves on anyone. They just shined. You and I, brothers and sisters, we as followers of Ahlul Bayt need to be what? A reflection of that shining star, a reflection of the illuminating sun. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam would tell his companions. He would tell his companions what? Abu Basir and the likes of Abu Basir would ask him, how do we talk to people and tell them about your cause? Because the Imam said, Ahyu amrana, rahimallah man ahya amrana. Abu Basir was asking the Imam, if people ask me questions, should I answer them? He said, of course, answer them. He said, if they ask me more questions, should I continue to answer? He said, yes, answer. So what if they stop asking me? Stop answering. Can I go after them? He said, وَمَا لَكَ بِالنَّاسِ. He's like, what do you want with the people? Let people be. The Imams, if you look deeply into their instructions of their followers, towards their followers, they told them to be with the people, not to proselytize to the people. They told them to go to their mosques, go to their funerals, visit their ill ones, be with the people. Do not remove your hand from the people. This expression by Imam al-Sadiq, do not remove your hand from the people, because if you remove your hand, the people lose only one hand, but you will lose many hands. People need each other. We cannot do without one another. We are, brothers and sisters, social beings. The uniqueness in the human being is not merely his or her intellect, is not merely their intelligence. We, as human beings, we are social beings. We are not meant to be isolated. Isolation was never emphasized by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Never. It was always an active integration and being at the center of their society, even during the most trying times. Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, when his rights were taken from him, and the Khilafah that was intended by the Prophet, because there was a system that was intended by the Prophet, and Ali ibn Abi Talib was that system. Ali was the successor of the Prophet, hands down. The spiritual era of the Prophet, the political era of the Prophet, the religious era of the Prophet, the familiar era of the Prophet. Ali ibn Abi Talib, everything in history points to him, that he was the heir of the Prophet. However, the reality was that people at that time, they practiced their free will. And Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, being the pragmatic leaders that they were, and individuals that did not believe in coercion, individuals that did not believe in duress, individuals that believed in free will and believed in intellectual freedom. Even though individuals would stand against them, what would they do? Imam Ali alayhi salam would say to those that would take his rights and create a new system to replace him, he would say, I will do whatever protects the affairs of the people, so long as it is only against me in my personal capacity. So long as only my rights are taken away. So Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, day in and day out, his paradigm was what? Protect Islam and protect the Muslims. Day in and day out. So you and I, today, with our Mahdi paradigm, what do you think Imam al-Mahdi is doing today? Sitting idly by? The world does not exist without Imam al-Mahdi. The world does not exist without the sun. The Imam is the sun behind the clouds. As simple as that. Brothers and sisters, let us know, with every Friday that passes, with every week, with every month, with every year, the Imam is not absent. The Imam did not leave us. The Imam is amongst us. We do not live without the Imam. He is that gateway to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fayd, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and grace upon humanity. Everything that comes from Allah comes through the Imam. The Imam as the Hujjah, the proof of Allah, the vicegerent and viceroy of God, his representative on earth, as he was a continuation from his father and grandfather and his forefathers, all the way to their great-grandfather, the founding father of humanity being Adam alayhi salam, from that first prophet to the last prophet and the last Imam, all of these being what? representatives of Allah on earth as a manifestation of God's mercy and His proof upon His creation. They are the sun for our solar system. This does not exist without him. The Imam is not absent. His occultation, as a clarification, is an occultation of identity. Like the occultation of Yusuf. Like the occultation of Musa. The occultation of Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman is an occultation of identity. His identity is concealed for his protection until the time comes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordains for his identity to be revealed to the world so that the clouds finally clear from the sky. But the Imam, the sun, is always there, no matter how cloudy it is. It's pretty cloudy today, right, brothers and sisters? Pretty cloudy today. Sun's still there. Sun's still there. I want us, in the remembrance of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and his dear sister Lady Zainab alayhi salam, I want us to build, and thank you, my dear respected Sayyid, for bringing this remembrance for us. Because in these nights are the nights of becoming closer to the Imam of our time. The one who is mourning his grandfather more than anyone else, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. He is the one whom we give our condolences to. He is the one who year after year mourns his great-grandfather al-Hussein alayhi salam. He is the master of these commemorations. We bow our heads before him. And he is a witness to our gatherings. He's a witness to our mourning. He's a witness to our commemoration. Brothers and sisters, as we sit down and we try to bring these things together, these ideas of what it means to be a Shi'i, what it means that you and I, brothers and sisters, we have this informed paradigm, unique from everyone else in the world, that you and I engage knowing this truth, but engage with humility. Engage in humbleness. Engage as an extension of that mercy to mankind. As brothers and sisters in faith and equals in humanity. That you and I, brothers and sisters, in our society, we should be the best amongst us. Let it be. The Imam says, Imam al-Sadiq tells his companions in that narration, he says, let it be that when people describe you, they will say, وَمَنْ مِثْلُهُ? Who is like him? Who is like him? He is the most honest, the most trustworthy, the most honorable amongst us. Who is like him? You and I, brothers and sisters, when we look today and we see, we don't need validation from other people. Nobody needs validation from any other people. The validation comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you're speaking from a social group, as us, as Shia, as Muslims, or any other group of human beings, or you as an individual, you do not need validation from the next person. You may be lonely. You may be experiencing a trial, a tribulation, a journey that nobody else knows about. And you may be looking for that validation. As social beings, we kind of expect that. But no, brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, as much as you try to integrate, as much as you try to be engaged in your society, sometimes things won't necessarily go as planned. Sometimes you will be rejected. Sometimes people will not like you. Sometimes people will make you feel like you do not belong. Do you want to know somebody who during his lifetime was challenged in so many different ways of not belonging within his own community? None other than Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Could you imagine being a Sadiq al-Amin where everybody would turn to you in their times of need, in their times of trouble? When we wanted a dispute resolved, they would turn to us, Sadiq al-Amin Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Who else would we turn to? And then when he came forward with his message, his own family, could you imagine sitting with your family and telling them of your message, of your mission, of your vision, with such confidence and conviction, and they look at you and laugh, humiliate you? Do you realize the struggle that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went through in order to deliver to us La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah? Do we realize what he went through? If we ever feel estranged, lonely, not supported, like we don't belong, look to your Prophet. That man who stood for a decade, trashed by his own people. Mecca was his home. Before Medina, brothers and sisters, Mecca was his home. When the Prophet would walk in the streets and people would trash him, throw the filth of animals on him. Why did he do that? Why did he continue? Why did he just smile, brush it off, and continue? Why? Rahmatan lil Alameen. Rahmatan lil Alameen. Mercy to mankind. And even with that woman that would trash him on a daily basis, and then the Prophet one day, no trash, no one is coming outside to trash him. He would go knock on her door, find her ill, and help take care of her. She'd come to her senses and look at him and say, Muhammad, you're taking care of me? How? Why? What is this? The Prophet would smile his beautiful smile and say, what? إنما بعثت. I was sent for what? بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. I was sent to perfect the best of ethics. Akhlaq. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you see his entire message and what he did in challenging the status quo of that time, in challenging people's psyche, and challenging what people have placed as chains on their own souls, what did he do? Akhlaq, ethics, manners, character and virtue. What was Imam Sadiq alayhi salam emphasizing to his companions? Akhlaq, ethics, character and virtue. How do you engage in your society? Yes, pray your prayer, fast your fast, give your zakat, do your pilgrimage. But how are you with people? How are we with one another? When the Prophet would find a man praying in his mosque day in, day out, the Prophet would come, he would leave, the same man was still praying in the same position. He came up to him one day, waited for him to finish between his prayers. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam ya Rasulullah. He said, I see you here all the time. And I'm paraphrasing the story. I see you here all the time. He said, yes, I've dedicated myself to a life of worship. MashaAllah. He said, do you have a family? He said, yes, I have a wife and kids. He said, who takes care of them while you're here praying? He said, I've entrusted my brother to take care of them while I've dedicated myself to a life of worship. Tells him, get up, go home, go take care of your family. That's your worship. The Prophet isn't telling him stop praying. The Prophet is telling him pray and take care of your family. The Prophet is saying pray and take care of the core of what builds a community, the family. The Prophet is telling him pray and build into society. Because if you and I, brothers and sisters, we're not taking care of our families, may Allah protect all of our families. The struggle is real. It's not easy. But the more we focus, each and every one of us, on ourselves, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the condition of a people until they change what's within themselves. Focus on our families. Focus on our community. In the way we engage with one another. That intention of sincerity, that genuineness to bring us together does what? Creates a collective movement. If my sister and my brother is committed, I want to be better. I want to grow. I want to look at every aspect of my life. Look at the verticals in your life. You have many verticals in your life. As social beings, we have a social vertical. We have a financial vertical. We're responsible to provide a livelihood for ourselves and our families. We have a spiritual vertical. You have certain amal, prayers, fasting, certain things that you have to do as part of your spirituality, not your religion. Your religion is the foundation. Your religion contributes to all of these verticals, and we'll get to that. I have a social vertical, a financial vertical, a spiritual vertical, an intellectual vertical, a physical vertical. I have to take care of my physical body. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has entrusted me with this body. I can't mistreat it. The intellectual vertical. What are we reading? You and I, we're trying to build into the Shia identity, understand who we are as followers of Ahlul Bayt, and have a Mahdi paradigm, having the Imam as the center of our lives. You and I, brothers and sisters, have we read a book about Imam al-Mahdi? Have we read a book about Imam al-Mahdi? And I'm not here as in reprimanding, I'm asking, have we read about Ahlul Bayt? Not listened. Don't listen to me. I'm telling you, yes, as a lecturer, I'm saying don't listen to me. Read, confirm, research. Be a critical thinker. Alhamdulillah, yes, this is an opportunity for us in bringing the blessings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in this gathering. Ahsantum, it's beautiful. However, don't stop at listening to someone who is sharing with you a perspective. This is a start. Don't stop here. Start here. I hope everyone is like, oh, he said stop listening. Don't listen to me. Everyone's going to pick up and go. No, I'm not saying that. Start here. You and I, brothers and sisters, let it be. No matter where you are in your journey, maybe you've never read a book in your life. Maybe you haven't read anything. It's okay. It's never too late to start in the movement towards betterment in every single one of those verticals. Even, by the way, and I hear this all the time, it's just a very practical note. Some brothers and sisters will tell me, hey, listen, I literally can't read. I can't. I open up a book and I go to sleep. It's like nap time, you know? You forget melatonin, just give me a book and I'm good to go. Sleep. Then listen. Don't just read. Don't rely on opening up a book. Grab an audio book, whatever it may be. Listen to another lecture, whatever it may be. But the idea of reading and committing yourself to that movement of that growth does what? When you bring your thoughts into book form, into written form, you realize those thoughts are so much more organized. So the learning, the curve in the learning is more effective for you and I, brothers and sisters, when we're going and we're saying, I want to read about this. I'll stop talking about reading because I'm getting people yawning at this point. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You and I, brothers and sisters, when we go back into history, we find our identity. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, one day, when Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein were just little boys, the Prophet is sitting with them. He has them in his lap. Imagine this grandfather sitting with the joys of his life, al-Hassan and al-Hussein, holding them, embracing them. And they're in the house of Lady Fatima. He's holding them, embracing them, playing with them. And at one point, as he's embracing them, he kisses Imam al-Hassan and he kisses Imam al-Hussein. And the narration tells us that he kissed one differently than the other. He kissed Imam al-Hassan on his mouth, his cheek, and he kissed Imam al-Hussein on his neck. So Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, they leave the room. Imam al-Hussein goes to his mother, Lady Fatima, who is working and preparing some things for the house. He goes up to his mother, Fatima, and he says, Mother, I have a question for you. She said, yes, my dear. My grandfather, Rasulullah, just kissed me and kissed my brother. But this time, it was different. He kissed me on my neck and my brother on his mouth. Why? She said, well, I don't know. Let's go and ask him. So they go back into the room and they find Rasulullah prostrating in the state of sujood. And then Imam Ali walks in, Imam al-Hassan walks in with him, and they all gather and they said, Lady Fatima, as Rasulullah raises his head, she says, Abata ya Rasulullah. Al-Hussein tells me, 1, 2, 3. Why is it that you kissed him on his neck and you kissed Imam al-Hassan on his mouth? The Prophet, the narration says that his face changed. And as Lady Fatima paused for the Prophet to tell her why, he said, it pains me to tell you the reason, but I must. I kissed Al-Hassan on his mouth as that will be the place from which he will be martyred, poisoned and killed. So Lady Fatima alayhi salam begins crying, my son Al-Hassan will be poisoned and killed? He said, yes. So imagine the heart of Lady Fatima as she's grasping with this. And then she asks, well, what about Hussein? Why did you kiss him on his neck? He said, oh Fatima, I kissed Hussein on his neck because that is the place in which the swords will fall and slaughter